Well, good morning, folks. Welcome back to We're Probably Outside. I'm Evan, and that's Ashley at the helm. So today we're going to be doing some trolling for white bass out here on Percy Priest Lake in Nashville, Tennessee. So normally when we troll for white bass and hybrids, we usually catch other things too. So white bass, hybrids, yellow bass all kind of hang out in the same area. So we expect to catch a few different things. But we're going to troll in such a way that you can use just your normal rods and lures that most everybody has in their tackle box, so you don't need anything too special to do what we're doing today. So come with us and we'll go catch some fish. Sure what the deal with the birds is this time of year. We have never been followed by birds ever until like a month ago probably. They started following us everywhere we go, and every time we pass more birds they all join in, and by the time we get to where we're going there's like 100 birds following us. But anyway, so we actually tried to do this video last weekend and we came out here and the wind was just a disaster, but I did catch a monster hybrid, so I'll put that video up for you to take a quick look. It was about 23 inches long, and I don't have a scale, but I would have guessed between 5 and 7 pounds. It was pretty big. This is the new biggest fish I've ever hooked. Biggest fish I have ever caught.
Oh my god! Oh jeez!
Oh my goodness, that is crazy. So anyway, what we're gonna do is we're gonna first just try to find some fish. So I have sonar, which makes it a million times easier. If you're on a boat that doesn't have sonar, you can always try to find the birds and just kind of use the water depth based on what time of year it is. Since we were out here fishing last weekend, I kind of have an idea of how deep they are. Last week we were catching them maybe 30 to 35 feet deep. Well, the one that we caught was 30 to 35 feet, and the fish was maybe 10 or 15 feet off the bottom. But this week I'm gonna start to try around there, but it has gotten colder too. So I'm gonna try to maybe go a little bit deeper and start there and go shallower and just kind of look in water between maybe 30 to 40 feet and see if we can see fish. After I start to see a bunch of bait, which I already am, we just look down and there's bait out the wazoo. I'll take a screenshot. But after I start seeing a bunch of bait, then we're gonna put the rods in the water and actually start trolling. The sonar just makes it much easier to know that you're actually trolling where the fish are instead of just trying to guess. Okay, so there's lots of fish, so let's go ahead and get that trolling motor in and start moving. Say a trolling motor is a necessity to troll with. You can always use the big engine as long as you can keep it relatively slow, but it definitely makes it easier. And the iPilot system makes it even easier on top of that. So what I'm going to do is, I know that I want to troll at 1.2 miles an hour and I want to go in a straight line. So what I'm going to do, now that we're in 35 feet of water like we talked about, I'm going to try to keep us going straight back into this cove here at a speed of 1.2 miles an hour. So what I'll do is, after we start moving here, I'm going to turn on autopilot, which basically just keeps the heading of the boat the same, so we can maintain the same heading. And then I'm also going to turn on cruise control and set that to 1.2 miles an hour, and then we'll let this do all the work. So now all we need to do is toss the lines in after this stabilizes. We do have a little bit of wind, and at the moment it's a tailwind, and if you have a strong tailwind, it's very difficult to troll properly when you're trying to troll, about the same speed the wind is taking you, because the trolling motor can't really keep you on the same heading and maintain your speed. So I always like to troll into the wind when you have a strong wind, but I think it's calm enough today that shouldn't be a problem. But here we are, looks good, 1.2 miles an hour, and I'm seeing lots of bait on the sonar. So let's go ahead and toss in some spoons. So we brought 4 rods along. This is a 7-foot medium action, and we have about I believe it's a 1 ounce silver spoon on it. So this is a rod that most people would probably have. It's nothing too fancy, with just a standard spinning reel on it. You can use a bait caster too, but I just like that you can usually hear the spinning reels, whereas a normal low profile bait caster is pretty quiet, so it's hard to tell if you have a fisherman. So I'm going to toss this out there and the rest of the rods. So I'm just going to lob that out there maybe 30-40 feet and close this bail and leave this here for now.
Alright, this is a 7-foot medium light rod, and we're just using this spoon. It's silver on the bottom with a little blue and black, so we're just going to cast that out here. The others.
So, just talking about the wind, we're going a little fast, and you can tell we're crabbing. The trolling motor is trying to keep us going that way, but the wind is not having it. So, hopefully this wind will calm down here and we can actually go in a straight line, because after you start to have a couple rods off the back, they can get tangled pretty quickly. The wind was so bad in this section of the video that I thought I would do a voiceover instead. So this is the 3rd rod that we're using. It's a 7'6" ultralight, 6-pound line, and I have a 1/2 ounce jigging spoon tied onto it. Another thing to add is that I only really ever use jigging spoons. I don't have any spoons that are marketed as a casting spoon or a trolling spoon. I just tend to do all of my fishing with jigging spoons, and it works great. But these aren't the only ones you can use. There are plenty of other spoons on the market that would work just fine. And the last one is I believe a 6'6", again, ultralight, something that I would also fish with in the creek. But this one's actually fiberglass, so it's even softer than the other one. And again, probably a 1/2 ounce silver spoon. We'll lob this one out there. Okay, so talking about depth, we can see that the bait is around 20 feet down, so I would usually fish below the bait. That's usually where the big fish would be. Trolling, I found that I don't always see the bigger fish before we catch any. I usually just see bait, fish around the bait, and then we'll usually end up hooking up. But back to depth as far as the lures go. Using this method, it is very difficult to accurately tell how deep your spoons are. So what I usually do is, the heavier the spoon, the more it'll sink. But it also depends on how long the rod is, how far the tip is off the water, what kind of line you have on it is a big factor also. So you'll just kind of need to feel it out and see where you start to hook up, and kind of use that as an example. So what I do is on the ultralight rods, I have to toss them out a bit further, maybe 40 or 50 feet. And then these heavier ones, like I said earlier, maybe 30 or 40, and kind of fine tune that. You can kind of estimate how deep it is based on the angle of the line and how far back it is. So this one looks like maybe it's at a 30-degree angle off the water, and if I have 50 feet out, you can kind of guess how far down that is. But unless you have a calculator and feel like doing some trig, it's not always that easy. Now, especially on these ultralights, it's important to make sure your drag is set right. If I hook a giant fish on here and it's set way too tight, there's a chance that it could just break the rod right off. So I like to have my drag set such that it's just tight enough that it would hook the fish if it bites, but not so tight that it'll break the rod, right? So I'll keep this nice and loose. I think that feels about right. And this is also only 6-pound line, so either break the rod or break the line, one of those two things. So I think that's set right. Not exactly scientific, but it works. Something else to discuss too, we just had a cold front come through. It went from 70 degrees down to 27 degrees in 24 hours, so the fishing is going to be tough today, but I usually find that trolling is what gets it done in conditions like this, so I'm hoping for the best. Okay, so we're back in the cove here, and it's about 25 feet deep, and I've started to see less fish show up on the sonar.
Hey, I think it's on the bottom.
Oh yeah, this one's stuck. Yeah, so we're getting shallower and stuff's starting to catch. So we're going to turn around and troll back out there into deeper water. You can always try to turn around with trolling rods, but I always find that it doesn't work that well, so I'm not going to try it. Okay, we turned around here. We're up to speed. Thankfully now we're getting in the wind, so it should be a bit easier to both go the right speed. The second ultralight here, yeah, it feels like a good one. The wind picked up too, but ooh. No, it's okay. I think we'll be okay. Try to block the wind a bit. Probably about 15 feet down, and we're in 28 feet of water, so at least that gives us some sort of an idea of how deep the fish are and how deep the water they're in. I need the net for this one. This line's a bit too light. Yeah, it's a good white bass, I think. Nice. The first one looks to be a white bass. Yeah, sometimes hybrids and white bass can be a bit hard to identify between each other, but yeah, this one's definitely a white. But yeah, first fish of the day. That's pretty good. Let him go. Well, that's good. Even though it's cold and windy, we're still catching fish, so that's a good sign. We also have, all different sizes and colors of spoons on, so something to think about is if you start catching multiple fish on one size or color, then you can switch everything over to that too. And, just hooked up on a real good one. This is on the 1.5 ounce. This is about the place where we caught the really big one the other day that we talked about, so who knows. Doesn't feel quite as big, but it's still a good fish. Maybe it just doesn't. We foul hooked him while trolling. Don't even know how that's possible. Looks like we got him in the top of him. Oh, and it's off. Let me get it out of there. That's a good fish too. We actually foul hooked him while trolling. I don't think I've ever done that before, but another great fish. So let's put him back. That was in about 32 feet of water. So we're getting deeper and more fish are coming out. That was on the bigger spoon, so it looks like bigger fish are biting bigger baits, which is usually the case, but as we have seen in the past, sometimes not. Since we're catching fish in like 30 feet of water, we'll just follow this cove around here and kind of follow this contour line of around 30 feet.
Hey, rod tip, yeah.
And we got the bottom, I think. Yeah, got the bottom on this one, so let's shut it off. Can you pull the rest of the rods in? Problem with trolling these treble hooks is that if it touches the bottom, there's a good chance it'll just get totally stuck. It's like right underneath of us, so maybe if we move to the other side, we'll be able to dislodge it from whenever it's stuck on. I think this one was too deep anyway if it was getting snagged in 30 feet of water. And there we go, it's unsnagged. That's good. So we went another maybe 100 or 200 feet or so and didn't catch anything else. So we're gonna just go across the channel here. The channel goes straight back here. We're gonna cross it and go over here. There's kind of a point that we troll around. We'll try to stay around 30 feet just like we did back there and then see if there's anything across the channel. It's looking good over here. 30 feet of water, lots of bait. There's a bunch of birds hanging out over here too, so that's always a good sign. Let's get moving here and put the rods in the water. My trolling motor batteries have been dying early on me, so I'm thinking it's about time to replace them, but I'll use them until I can't stand it anymore. So take a look at this picture. You can see that when we troll, we usually have this set up. If we're just using 4 rods, we'll usually have 2 in like kind of the middle of the boat off of the back, and then 2 wide and high up on the T-top. And that usually works pretty well. We don't usually get anything tangled unless there's a really big fish that we can't really muscle out of the other rods. But it tends to work pretty well. Sounds like we might have had a bite. Let's just watch that a little bit. Oh, there we go. Back on. It was like thinking about it for a couple. It looked good, but maybe not. Ooh, that's a good fish too. I think we should tie on a couple more of these spoons because these seem to be the perfect size. Yeah. Actually, 2 weeks ago, I snagged a bait fish using a spoon, but I was just kind of jigging for him, and I, snagged a bait fish, and it was about the size of this spoon that I have on here, so that was at least a good sign. That's a good fish too. Oh, that's a big fish. Nice. Wow. Starting to catch some bigger ones in here, and we're heading straight for that. Nice. So this is a hybrid. Another excellent looking fish. Let's see how long he is. They have to be 15 to keep, and this one's, man, right on 15, but it's okay. We already have fish in the freezer, so we don't need to keep anymore, but let's let him go. Excellent. Swim away. This water's not terribly cold. At 54 degrees, it's not bad. Well, I went to put on some more of those smaller spoons, but I don't have any, so.
Oh, really?
Talking to the camera.
I know.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't think, I thought we should.
Ashley likes to answer me when I talk to the camera. Oh. Need some more coffee. Oh, yeah. This is really weird. Maybe it's either really small or it doesn't really care. Or it's a stick. It could be a stick. It feels like a wet sock. Oh no, there it goes. Okay. It is indeed a fish. Oh yeah, it's a good fish. No, he just didn't really care too much. That fish was interesting because I hadn't seen any on the sonar for, I don't know, 500 feet. And he bit a lure or a spoon that we haven't gotten a bite on yet. So, I don't know. I guess we just bite whatever they feel like biting that second. But we don't really have a pattern today because we've got bites on all kinds of stuff. So that's interesting. But that was in 27 feet of water, a different place than we've caught the rest of them. We caught the first 2 back there, one over there on the kind of the point of that tip of the point, and then one just 100 feet back. So they're kind of scattered today, which makes sense. We haven't really seen any schools of them on the sonar either. They've just kind of been scattered. We've seen lots of bait though. There's a whole ton of birds back there. It looks like dive bombing fish, but they're in like 15 feet of water, so I'm not real confident. But we're just gonna go back there and see if there's anything because it's intriguing, if nothing else. So, well, I guess we'll see. Let's pull these out of the water. Okay, well, trolling motor batteries are dead anyway, so it's a good time to... We'll head back there and then we'll head back home. See if we see any more fish back there, though. Don't know how we're going to fish for them without a trolling motor, but...
You get one?
Yes. Yeah. So we came back here. I didn't really see anything, but I tossed 2 lines in, and well, here we are. We're only 14 feet of water, so I really didn't expect this. But man, this is a good one. Very funny. It's hard to tell how big they are with this. I thought it was hooked on the bottom, it was so big. You can see all the birds around just hanging out and dive bombing bait. Very weird. Really far back there too. Oh, damn.
Did it break your line?
Just broke my line. Holy crap. Didn't even have the drag set that tight. Well, that's unfortunate. That was the last one of those spoons we had. So I'm gonna put on a small gold one. See if that does us any good. Very interesting though, I just wouldn't have guessed that back here we would have found these fish. Again, we're only in 14 feet of water, so I can't have too much line out, but this is very interesting. So this boat idles in gear at maybe 1.8, 1.9 miles per hour, so it's kind of hard to troll properly with just the big engine, but we'll try to make it work here for this. If anybody has any idea why there'd be fish back here in 14 feet of water in December, well, you just put it in the comments, because I don't know.
Oh, fish!
Oh my goodness. Man. Can you take it out of gear? Okay, not gonna break this line this time. Can you pull the other rods in then too?
Yeah.
I feel like really good fish, but they're not fighting like I would have thought. I just don't know. Man. Oh no, they're just normal white bass, but in really shallow water. I'll take it though.
Okay.
Nice. Okay. Oh, well, you can see what they're feeding on. He's got a shad in his mouth.
Let me see.
Just feeding on shad, so that's what we're trying to imitate. Nice. Awesome. Well, I call that a successful day, and we learned some things. I never would have thought to fish in 14 feet of water in December with 50-degree water temperatures, but whatever, if it catches fish.
And if you want to keep watching us fish, hit the like button below, and if you have any tips or comments for us, drop us a comment in the comments below as well. Thanks for watching.